Thanks very much, Niamh, and we start tonight with the news that Rangers have been knocked out of the Champions League at the hands of Swedish side Malmo. The Ibrox side could only muster a 1-1 draw away from home, which meant they were eliminated 2-1 on aggregate. Steven Whittaker was sent off for dissent early in the first half, but Croatian striker Nikica Jelavic gave the away side hope when he opened the scoring after 22 minutes. Majid Begera joined Whittaker in the stand when he was given his marching orders 20 minutes before time, and Jiloan Hamad rubbed salt in the wounds of Ali McCoy's side, equalising with 10 minutes to go. The result means that Rangers miss out on the lucrative Champions League group stage and an estimated windfall of £15 million, and already questions are being asked about new owner Craig White's leadership. Well, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined now by a spokesman for the Rangers Supporters Trust, David Waddell, who joins me in the studio just now. David, very early in the season, the SPL campaign has barely begun, but already Rangers have been knocked out of the Champions League. Where do they go from here?
Well, Paul, I think it's time for Craig White to put his money where his mouth is. When he came into the club at first and he took over, there was a lot of fanfare about how he was going to have this fresh investment in the club, and he was going to be spending around £25 million over the next 5 years. That was his statement. Obviously, that was working out at £5 million a year. He did say that would be front-loaded to help Ali McCoy's, because the squad needed to be refreshed and 3 new faces coming in. So he did come out and say that he'd be spending around £10 million in his first season. I believe today he's brought in 3 players at a cost of £2.5 million, and if reports are to be believed, he's currently in the process of selling Majid Begera for around about £3 million, which would actually mean that more money's been brought in transfers than has actually been spent.
Many players after last night's match were blaming the referee for 2 harsh sendings off. Is that simply papering over the cracks, that the fact that the squad is too thin and it needs urgent refurbishment straight away? I
think the damage was done in the first leg for a start. The performance at Ibrox clearly wasn't up to scratch. The second leg, obviously they weren't helped by the folly of their 2 players who kind of shot themselves in the foot, essentially, with Whittaker's moment of madness, getting himself sent off, and then Begera later on in the match. But it was clear to see that when McCoy was trying to turn the tie and he was looking for options in the bench, they just weren't there. It was a couple of guys who were out of favour in the club and possibly doesn't rate, and then it was just the rest of the bench was just filled with kids.
We've seen in the past few days Rangers have missed out on numerous transfer targets who they've made public bids for. Kenny Miller ended up at Cardiff City. David Goodwillie has just yesterday evening joined Blackburn Rovers. Is there a bit of discontent among the Rangers fans whether there is actually money there from Craig White?
I think the way, if it's White himself or if it's his team that he's obviously brought in, the way they seem to be going about their business, it just seems all wrong to me. They're opening offers for players. It's a derisory bid, which is immediately sort of alienating themselves from the club they're trying to purchase a guy from, and they just don't seem to be willing to pay the market value, what the player's worth. They seem to get involved in these kind of protracted negotiations where they're trying to obviously get the best price for the club, but at the same time, there comes a point where you have to just pay the money, pay what the guy's worth, and get the deal done. That's what's cost him Goodwillie in this the whole transfer saga that they went on. Blackburn came in straight away. United made it perfectly clear they wanted £2 million up front for the player. They came in and that's what they bid. Rangers went through 5 or 6 different offers where they're trying to, well, we'll give you 1.5 up front with add-ons and all the rest of it, and United, their stance was clear from the get-go. No, we want £2 million. We weren't willing to pay it.
And what about the manager, Ali McCoy? He's only 4 games into his managerial career with Rangers. He's obviously a legend at Ibrox. Is there a little bit of uncertainty among supporters about Ali McCoy as manager? Sometimes it doesn't work. He was obviously part of the previous regime with Walter Smith. What's the fans' opinion on that?
I think maybe there is some concerns about his lack of experience as a manager in his own right, but I think it's certainly too early for people to jump in the gun and to be saying that, you know, he's maybe not the right man for the job. It was a bit of a disaster getting knocked out of the Champions League so early. As we discussed, it's a very lucrative competition for them. It could be bringing in between £10 and £15 million. But I do think that his hands were tied to a certain extent by the lack of transfer activity to help him out with that one. Dropped points on the day of the season against Hearts, but it's always a tough team to play, and by all accounts Hearts performed well on the day. So I think it's very early days to be saying that McCoy's under pressure or there's anything wrong with his managerial strategy at the moment, but obviously it's an easy one to throw at him, that there's lack of experience, and already people are levelling complaints that he went with the 5 at the back in the first leg against Malmo, and he's very much just sort of following on from his predecessor Walter Smith and going with a similar kind of managerial tactics and formation. But I think time will tell. I think it's certainly too early to be saying that he's under pressure at this stage.
Well, Rangers have dropped out of the Champions League stage, but they're not out of Europe completely. They will go into Friday's draw for the Europa League group stage. David, slightly less prestigious than the Champions League. How will that affect future incoming transfers to the club?
I mean, I don't know if it was a coincidence, but I did notice that Goodwilly's transfer to Blackburn was announced around about half an hour after Rangers were eliminated, so I don't know if that was possibly playing a part in Goodwilly's thinking himself, where he was unsure whether to commit when he possibly had the lure of playing in the Champions League. It certainly won't help in attracting new players, and there's a good chance that if Craig White knew that he had that £10–15 million guaranteed income, that he'd be far more willing to give McCoist more money to spend. So obviously that's now gone. You're looking at players, you've not got that obvious attraction of you can offer them Champions League football, but at the same time Craig White has come out and said, rest assured, the money will be spent, and he's aware that the squad needs to be bulked out a wee bit and that new players will be coming in.
Well, this story's set to rumble on, and it remains to be seen whether Rangers will recruit many players before the end of August transfer deadline, before the window shuts. David Waddell from the Rangers Supporters Trust, thanks very much for joining me in the studio just now. And Niamh, that's all from me. Back to you in the studio.